Hello everyone, today we're working on this Tyco 460. I've had the Tyco Mantua 462 in the past and it blew my mind how good it ran. So let's see how good this runs and maybe I'll be getting some more. Also, I promised you a tour of my brass collection, so let's do that. I have this Berkshire, it's a Santa Fe 284 and it is absolutely beautiful. And this thing ran right out of the box. It ran perfectly, so that's a future episode that's coming. Yeah, for sure, you don't hide these in a box, you display them. This one needs a little bit of work. It's a 462. It's a A cane, it's a B&O. So that's gonna need some work, but it runs. So it had a short circuit. I touched it for a minute and the short circuit was gone. And now it's a runner. Of course, it needs a good cleaning and lubrication, but it's gonna be worth doing. Then I got this other Pacific. It's a Pennsylvania K5. And that one, when I got it, it did not run. And I'm not sure if the manufacturer, but it says Japan under here, so that sounds good. So it did not run. And just like the other one, I touched it a little bit and then it started running. Just have to be careful I don't create a short circuit. Still noisy, but it still runs very well. So that too needs a good cleaning and lubrication, but that will be a future episode. I love this Keystone emblem. Help me out a little bit though. I'm just curious. If you guys were bidding on a brass locomotive on eBay, would you consider it being worth more if it was brass colored like this? Or would you think it would be worth more if it was painted? Just put that down in the comments below. I value your opinion. And then I got a big box of basket case engines. For what I paid for this could be a parts locomotive, but I'm gonna try to save it. It's a bit rusty, so that was probably caught in a storm surge and dipped in seawater. I don't know if I can save it, but I'm gonna try. So that's another future episode. This Pacific, it's the same deal. It's seen better days. So for what I paid for this, I would be okay if it was a parts engine. But I'm also gonna try and save it. Like I said, the other one that I have, it rocked my world. It's awesome. The 460 came from that box of junk engine. So there's another Mantua 262 Prairie type. And there was a tender in that box of junk locos. Just one tender, a Mantua tender. So hopefully I can get that going again. Here's a Bachmann engine and its tender. This one, the cylinders are broken off. This one, I'm not sure it's worth saving. I won't feel bad if I can't. And it's got its tender for what that's worth. It didn't rust because it's all plastic. This is another lot that I bought, just a bunch of metal parts. So we'll see if I can use this. Definitely can use the pilot. These get broken. The pilots get broken and the smoke box front, they just plain get lost. And there was this really, really neat tank car, which is all metal. I don't think it's brass. I think it's just the metal, but still really cool. And another tender shell, all metal. So I could probably use that for another project. I got this other Mantua 462, and it's got a good tender on it. The tenders just by themselves are worth something. But this one looks good. Let's see if it runs. These all metal engines, they're heavy. They're so nice to handle. Oh, that runs fine. Just needs a good cleaning and lubrication. I know how to do that. Here's another project. It's a River Rossi 080. And the guy that sold it to me told me it was a basket case. So we'll see about that. At any rate, it looks so good. I couldn't help myself. I bought it right away. Here's another engine that probably needs attention, needs a cab and a pilot beam. But it came with a good tender. This tender, it's minty. It's more Tyco Mantua stuff, but the tender is awesome. Let's just see if that runs. Grab my 2 leads and let's see what we've got. So one goes to the wire and then the other one goes to the frame. So it's seen better days, needs a good lubrication, but it's gonna run. I can't believe how tough these locomotives are. That is some tough stuff. See, with some lube, it will be great. Okay, let's focus on this now. I bet it runs just like that. So let's find out. It's got issues for sure. This screw, for example, it doesn't hold into anything anymore. I don't know if the screw is stripped or if that part inside here is stripped, but it's no good. Let's see if it runs. I got a good feeling, but we're about to find out for sure. At least it makes noise. That's always a good sign. I'm just going to reverse the polarity here. So it kind of wants to run. I'm going to tear into it. Probably what I'll end up doing is I will make the this wire, I'm going to remove it just so I can straighten it and put it back. Oh, it's on there good. That wire, it's crimped in the end here, so I can't really remove it, but that's okay. It can stick in there, can stay in there for now. So I'll just disconnect the tender here. That's going to be, it's just a lot easier to handle the locomotive when the tender's out. So I'll just start with that. Now this the drawbar is a little plastic piece, so I don't want to work it too hard. And then the wire, it's all its original stuff. I have a feeling these are pretty good, so that's going to be fun. We'll see. I will judge it whether it's superior to the Bachmann or not. Yeah, I think we'll do that. That makes a lot of sense for today. What I always do, I put all, like the first screw I remember, the first screw I remove, I'll put it furthest away. And then I'll continue like that for a little while. This tender, it's decently heavy. That helps the locomotive to run. And then this screw here is completely messed up. And then you can see it's got its original horn hook coupler. Should we change that for micro trains? Let me just think about that for a minute. This is going to be the second screw. Probably allows me to remove the drive from the boiler. That would make sense. This is probably really old. Could be 30, could be 40 years old. But I find that these are good quality enough that despite having all these brass trains and stuff, it's still interesting. Let's see if I can remove the shell now. Maybe, yeah, looks like I can. Just have to wiggle this around. There's even a connection for a headlight that's holding me back. It does not look like it's soldered in. It looks like it's just put through that little ring there. This little ring looks like it's just put through that, which means if I work it gently, I can remove it. Actually, would like to test that little light. If that works, that would be good. Yeah, the light still works. They put a tremendous amount of work on this. So there's a little lens that comes out. And then you can push down on the light and the boiler will come out. What you gotta do is gotta install the boiler in and then get your screwdriver down and then push it up just a little bit. Now, if you want to switch this to an LED, which I might do, this would be the time. I'm missing the boiler front. I didn't really notice it, so I guess that's not that important. What is important is how it runs. So I'm assuming the screw that holds the motor comes from down here. So I will remove these screws and we'll remove that plate. Because I want to work with the motor alone, so I have to go through that. So I think just these 3 screws will remove that plate, and that gives me access to the screw that's holding the motor. Oh, this screw holds the motor, so that was easy. Here's my motor. I think I will remove the 2 brushes. I will remove the brushes and I will clean the commutator right here. Probably needs that. The thickness of the brushes is good, so it hasn't been run that much. It's good to have the video, that way I can go back and look at how this was put together. So I'm just gonna take this spring out. Just remove the little spring from the brush, and then the brush will just come out. Do the same thing on the other side. Now let's see, what do I like to use to clean the brushes? I like to use just a piece of cardboard. So I go to the rubbish bin and I just take a piece of cardboard, anything, make it about the size of the commutator, and I'll just turn my commutator like that. And you can see it picks up all this the excess graphite or whatever dirt that's on there. So I'll be doing that for about 5 minutes. And also these lines here in the commutator, there's lines. You can get in there and clean that nice and deep like there. That also is worth spending a couple of minutes on. And although this may seem unorthodox, I'm gonna wash this with my toothbrush and some dish soap. You shouldn't put a lot of water on your locomotives, obviously, but this is just for a minute, and I'm removing years of accumulated dirt, so I kind of need to do that. I'm gonna put the brushes back on it, and you'll see it will run even though it got a little wet. Is there a lot of adjustment needed on the brushes? I'm not sure. I think the spring will hold it in there well enough. That doesn't look right. Yeah, this is going to be better. Like I said, it's good to have the video to put everything back together. Oh yeah, just watch it kick all the water out. I'm using the same voltage as I had before when it wasn't running at all. I've got quite a bit of voltage on there. Now with the dish soap, I couldn't remove all the oil. So the oil protected all the bearings from the water. But now I'm gonna reintroduce some oil. This is what I use, a Label 108. And I use the slack. There's a little bit of thrust on there. I use that to bring the oil in. Now you don't want any oil in your commutator. That would be bad. So I'm just gonna run this like that, up and down, very gently for a minute. And then I'll bring in my my voltage, and we'll have it spin itself while the oil is working its way inside. So with a little oil cleaning and lubrication, it runs much better now. So with a little cleaning and lubrication, it runs much better now. Anyways, runs like it should. Now on to the next step. I'm gonna be removing all this valve gear because I want to get it down, and I want to re-lubricate it. So this one's crooked a little bit, so we're gonna straighten that out. But that's no big deal. It doesn't feel bad, but I really want to get in there and clean everything. Oh, look at that. It's got a little traction tire here. That's really cool. Let me see if I got a nice tool that will remove these hexes here. It's 2.5 millimeter. Apparently that tool is really hard to get. So I'll be working on these for a little while with my pliers, which isn't ideal, but that's what it's gotta be. But you know, when you want something, you want something. And then this one, careful, there's a little O-ring in there. And also the pin is a little bit longer. That number 2 driver is called the main driver. For that reason, try not to lose these. And then that gives me access to the third one, which is here. Oh, this is a well done locomotive. I like it. I like it a lot. This one here is completely rounded off. That's not going to be too much of an issue for me. I can clean it that way, which is what I'm going to end up doing. And then I'll remove this plate and just clean everything to perfection. These 3 screws should be exactly the same. But overall, I think it's a really good quality locomotive. Yeah, these 3 screws, they're the same, and they love magnets. And look at that, we even have bearings in there. What a nice locomotive. That is so cool. Things are shaping up. I'm gonna wash everything with my toothbrush and some dish soap, and then we can put it all back together. A little soap and water makes a huge difference, especially on these the pilot wheels. Made a big difference. I don't know if I'm gonna paint them, the pilot wheels. They could certainly use a little bit of color to match the rest of the locomotive. So I'm gonna keep cleaning the locomotive wheels like this with my rag, and probably they go back under the dish soap again, just to make sure they're extra clean. Well, I've got everything cleaned up. Now it's time to put things back together. Let's start by the tender here. So I cleaned the wheels on the tender. See how I manage my screws so I don't lose them? That is a good tip for you. So I'll just put the two trucks back in. I cleaned the wheels, of course. Now, as you put everything back together, you have to be careful of the direction of everything. For example, if you put the trucks back this way, you'll create a short circuit, and that would be bad. Same thing. So on the tender, it's pretty straightforward, but on the locomotive, it's something different. Now, as you look at the wheels on the locomotive, you can see there's one side is plastic and the other side is metal. So it's pretty hard to tell, to be honest, but if you look on the inside, you can clearly see there's some bright metal there, and on the plastic side, it's just black plastic. You can see the metal shining through. So this side is metal, it's a very dark brown, and this side is plastic, it's pure black. You can check the quartering at the same time, but these look really good to me. I don't think that there's an issue there. So if you have the tender upside down, looks like this. So you have to have the metal part this way. This is your metal part, has to be this way. If you put the drivers that way, you create a short circuit, and that would be bad. And this is called a blind driver. It doesn't have any flanges. A lot of the Tyco engines have this. It makes it easier for the locomotive to go through curves. That's all that is. Same with this. Beautiful. So go ahead and put that back together. So don't forget to put your bearings. They have a little slot where they go there. That is some good engineering. Yeah, the only thing I want you to put in the comments is if you think brass engines are worth more painted or just so this should be the dark brown side. Yeah, if you make a mistake with this, well, obviously the black tire goes on the non-electrical pickup side. Oh, you know what? Not terribly important, but good to remember. Just put a drop of oil. I'm going to put a drop on each side, and that should be good. Put a drop of oil. Check the insulation. Actually rolls pretty good. Yeah, check the insulation. So that I take my time. That this should not be hard to go in there. Should go nice and smooth. Yeah, the nut that was rounded was on the non-pickup side. And you can't put this plate back right away because this is the nut for the motor. So you can put this plate back. And that has 3 little screws. So just tighten these screws. They don't have to be very tight, just hand tight. Basically, just tight enough so they don't back out. I like to start all the screws before I tighten them. There. And then I'll test every driver to make sure they're still rolling well. Perfect. And then the motor comes in. You see how I manage my screw, so I don't have to look for this screw. And then the motor, you can maybe shim it a little bit if you find that it needs it. You could put just a little bit of plastic in the front or in the back. Put a little plastic shim. And then I'm gonna reinstall it and then test it. We'll see if it needs any adjustment. Because there's a possibility and there's time for that now. But it looks like it goes just like that. Yeah, we'll test it on the bench. Just to be sure. Just put some power to it. And I'm using a very low setting on my power pack. So just out of the box, sounds amazing. I haven't put any lubrication on the worm gear. Now, a lot of people recommend to put grease. I like to put this very light oil. And that is, as they say, is that. I have to turn this slow because the oil will just spin out because of the action of centrifugal forces. You have to go slow on this at first. But we're off to a good start here. So I guess the oil added a couple of RPMs there. I like it. So I'll just continue adding parts from here. I suppose this is a good time to add the valve gear. I always use the rods as a tool to install my pins. I started doing that with N scale, but of course with HO scale it's twice as big. So that makes it easier. You know, I had a friend that just sold one of her old cars, and you know, it was a manual car, and she said she was nervous driving the manual. I told her, you know, your feelings betray you. If you had loved that car, you would have spent more time in it and you would have been good at driving it. So that's that, you know. Me, I'm good at trains because I love it. The number 1 rod goes first, and then the number 3 driver rod goes second. And then you bring in that little spacer. Bring in the spacer. And then the main rod. And then that longer bolt. Lots of small parts, but it's a good detail. It's good details. Don't try to run your locomotive with only one side of the valve gear on. They do need that quarter turn to run correctly. So that runs a little slower with the valve gear on. But I'm going to give it some time and we'll see what happens. Well, I did not change much, but it seems to be running okay now. The quartering is on there good. You can't really change it. So that's forward. And then going backward. So that's gonna do. Usually don't put any lubrication on the valve gear, but I think I will a little bit on the piston here. But you just need one drop. And that's it. And I'll put one on the other piston there, so that while I move it around, it will spread itself. So I'll run it like that just for a little bit. Oh, and one thing that I did get wrong on the isolated drivers, it is not the middle part that is plastic. There's a little white insulator around everything. So make sure you get that white insulator all on the same side. If you get it wrong, you will create a short circuit. Anyways, I got it right unintentionally. Let's put some LEDs. Actually, I'll just put one. So this is what you order, LEDs with a resistor. Very important. I'm not really good at electronics, so I don't know what resistance to use. So I ordered them 12 volt with resistor. So it's already, someone else figured it out for me. So that's good. Pull one out. And that we'll go ahead and install that. This little cone that goes in there takes up almost all the room. There's the boiler, it takes up almost all the room. So I'm going to take my Dremel and shorten it up so I have space for my LED. I want it to stick out about like this. I have to push it in, put the boiler in, and then with a screwdriver, a small screwdriver, push it back up so that it gets in there. I'm still using the original path that was laid in there for the old wire. That looks really good. I'm going to glue it in place so it doesn't move around. So that's taking shape. That's nice. What I ended up doing, I tucked in the two leads under the brush springs. So the black on this side and the red on this side. And then I'm going to try and put my pilot truck back on there. We'll see if that works. I hope so. I would like that. Well, definitely want to give it a chance. If it doesn't catch into anything, I'm not gonna get frustrated. I'll just use a bit of crazy glue and that will get me up and running. I realize it's a little bit sketchy, but it's gonna allow me to run the train. So desperate times call for desperate measures. I'm gonna put my drawbar back on and I'll put the tender back on. Now I should put a cab on this. Obviously would look much better. But my interest in this project is just to see how well it can run. And I'm a little bit out of time for this week, so I'll have to put a cab on it another day. I am going to go and get my old Bachmann 440 so we can compare them. So we'll do that. We'll have a comparison between Bachmann and Tyco. And now it's time to run some trains. Here's the Bachmann. Can't say it's not beautiful. And this is the Tyco. So I don't know, it's up to you guys. What do you think? Which one runs better? Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.